Alright. I am mostly going into this to make sure that everything is adjusted right. Okay. Yes, alright, there we go. Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's special episode of Tolkien Tuesday for the drunk... Oh my gosh. You know what? This kind of fits now. Because Baja Blast is greenish color. It is... You know what? This works. Yeah, this works as the file of Galadriel. Ooh, lovely. Oh, wait, actually. I... There we go. Okay. Splendid. That looks much better. Oh. There we go. Ah, that looks much more professional. There we go. So yes. I'm always half gone. I've only had... Okay, so, granted, you can't see where... About this much of it is vodka. This is a file of Galadriel. Available, I think, only mostly to Americans. Which is... It is Taco Bell's Baja Blast Mountain Dew. Mixed in with whatever vodka we had around the house. I think it was mostly Smirnoff. I made a little... we have this little pitcher. So I bought 3 of these. And then mixed it all in. Added some vodka. And now I've put it back into these cups. So these are my standby cups. And then... At a time of my choosing, I will bring out one of these Fireball whiskey. Man, these are all leftover stuff from fucking New Year's. Ah, God. I can't even open the fucking... Alright, there we go. There we are. I got a bunch of these little things of Fireball whiskey. It is a bucket of whiskey, honeybee. And it is just lovely. I think it is magnificent. So, at a time I choosing cred, I'll not be doing, like, a whole shot of these. Like, my body could not physically take that. So, instead, I'll be just pouring it into the shot glass. A decent amount of what I think would be reasonable. Okay. So, Christ, this is going to be a trip and a half. First off, how many of you have not essentially seen... Don't know anything about... Here, I'll just pull up a fun creation GIF for us to... Oh my god, okay, that's seizure-inducing. Perfect. Ah, but it's Pinterest. I can't make it full screen. Damn them. Why do they want to keep doing those? Okay, that hurts too. You know what? This is good enough. Oh, come on. Wow, all of this sucks. You can tell I put more thought into the drinks than I did the actual Silmarillion storytelling. Oh, wow. There was a decent amount of vodka in that sip. Yeah, you know what? Okay, there we go. Alright, so a lot of you have never read anything about the Silmarillion, so this is gonna be fucking great. This is exactly how Tolkien wanted you to read the Silmarillion. From a postgraduate with nothing better to do on his day off than to get wasted, dress up like Bilbo, and mix Baja Blast with vodka. Okay. So, we'll start at the beginning. Now, what you need to know is that the Silmarillion book itself is split into multiple sections. There, starting out, is the Ainulindale, which is basically Middle-earth's Genesis. There is the Valaquenta, which talks to you about the different Valar, or kind of gods, in Middle-earth. Then you have the Silmarillion, which is like this big, heroic saga. And then you have the Akalabeth, which is the fall of Numenor, and basically how, like, Elendil and Isildur and Anarion came to Middle-earth, and how Gondor and Arnor got started. And then there's a small section about the War of the Ring. We're not going to touch that, because you guys already know. Anyway. So, in the beginning is this god figure, Eru. And this is Tolkien basically reminding you that he's fucking Catholic. In that, despite the fact that you will see, like, basically what kind of comes across as, like a polytheistic pantheon of, multiple gods and goddesses, they are not true gods and goddesses. They are more like caretakers of the world, or I guess you could equate them with archangels or something. But there's this one... there's this big deity over them all, named Eru, the One, who in the elves call Ilúvatar. He is basically the god figure, and the Ainulindale means the Song of the Ainur. And the Song of the Ainur is basically, so the Ainur are spirits that come directly from the thought of Eru. And they, like, there are many, many Ainur. It's a funny word. Ainur? Ainur. There are many Ainur. And some of them will eventually become the Valar, who are kind of the gods of Middle-earth, and some will become the Maiar, who are their helpers. But essentially Eru is kind of implied, it's very interesting how in this place called the Timeless Halls, where Eru has kind of set himself up, it sounds almost like there's really no, like, the primary sense is hearing. There's not much to look at, there's not much to touch, there's not much to taste, there's not much to smell, but hearing is everything. And Eru creates this great song that the Ainur are going to sing for him. Because the Ainur, you learn about this in Lord of the Rings, and in essentially just in Tolkien's mythology in general, how basically, oh, there we go, how basically song is like this magic of its own, and like singing can create things, and it's actually very poetic. I rather enjoy that aspect. So Eru, the god, basically tells the Ainur, I have created a song for you all to sing, and their voices are depicted as being different types of instruments, and it's very, very beautiful. So they start singing, but there is one among them named Melkor, who is the most powerful of the Ainur. And he starts thinking to himself, well, I don't want to sing what they are singing. I want to sing whatever I want to sing. So he starts singing his own theme, which is very cacophonous and very kind of disruptive. And you'd think I'd be fine if it was just him. However, he starts to drown out the other singers. And the other Ainur about him either start to become dismayed or start to attune themselves to his song. And they start to become more discordant with everything else. So Eru first hears this, and the first time he hears this, he smiles, and then he raises his hand, and his theme changes, and it kind of blasts back against Melkor, who kind of... And it's like much more beautiful and harmonious. But then Melkor kind of comes back with a more clashing, like it's almost like a kid like pounding on a piano to just make sound against to drown out Eru. And then Eru kind of smiles again, and he raises his hand again, and it beats back Melkor, and Melkor pounds back his theme, pushes back. The Ainur are kind of taking sides. There is a minority who are siding with Melkor, but the majority have stuck with Eru, and they are propounding his theme against Melkor. So, finally, a third time, Melkor pounds back his theme, pushes back, and this time, when Eru stands up, he is not smiling. He looks very grim. And then he raises his hand, and I believe the line is, a note erupts that is higher than the firmament and deeper than the depths. And I think that's I wouldn't want to hear that. I feel like that would destroy my earbuds. So... Oh, wow. I put a lot of vodka in here. Woo! I don't even know if I'm going to need the whiskey shot. So, anyway. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, this time, with this one impossible note that that Eru creates, everything goes silent. It kind of overwhelms everything. And he basically says to Melkor, my dude, you're super powerful, but you're super discordant. I've put together this beautiful theme in which each of you can have your own part, and each of you can stand out as this beautiful part of the whole. And you're trying to destroy that, but you know what? Joke's on you. I have made sure to weave your discordant part into the song to make it part of the song. And check out what you guys have made. And it's almost as if he pulls back this cosmic curtain to show them that they have created the world. Ea. It is. Ea. It is. And in which is the world Arda. Ea is if you imagine the universe technically with the stars and everything. Arda is the world within it. And in that world is Middle-earth, the continent that we know of. So, basically, he says, everything that I have basically had you guys sing has been to weave together this world, which is my creation. This is my testament to beauty and stuff. So, the Ainur are kind of looking at this amazed, and he says, I'm going to put into here my children. And he describes his children as the firstborn, the elves, and the secondborn, humans. And he talks about how he's going to put them in there, and how this is all going to be a very interesting thing. And Melkor, how even Melkor will have had a part in creating this with his discord. And so some of the some of the Ainur, they look at the world and they're very interested in it, and so they're like, oh my god, we want to be a part of that. And so and they also want to see elves and humans, because these are something completely new that they've never seen before, and everything new is kind of very intriguing to them, so they really want to get through. So he says, okay, for those of you who want, you may go down into the world and prepare it for elves and men. And so a bunch of the Ainur decide to go down into it. They become the Valar and the Maiar. And however, then Melkor looks down into it, and he is... The big thing about Melkor is he's always wanted to create for himself. And Eru says because he's going to make elves and humans, they're going to have in them the flame imperishable, which I guess you could imagine is like being alive but with like a soul. The flame imperishable is the soul, and he's putting it into this world. And Melkor always covets the soul because he wants to create things of his own to lord over them. He wants to command them. And so he decides to go down into it to basically do what he will, either to destroy whatever Eru has set up in this world or to create something of his own to lord over it. He wants to become lord of the world. So yeah, they descend into it, and a bunch of the Ainur stay behind, and they're still with Eru, and they're just kind of all watching this. So the Ainur, you know what? Because the world has been created, let's have our first shot of whiskey. Ah, God. Mmm. Here's to the world. Ooh. Anyway. Let me chase that down. Okay, that was mostly Baja Blast in that sip. Maybe I just didn't mix this well enough. That was good. Anyway, so you have the most powerful spirits who descend into the world are, let me actually, alright, become known as the Valar, the mighty keepers of the world. Now, they each take on, there are 7 who take on male aspects and 7 who take on female aspects. Because this is Tolkien, you can imagine the female aspects are not as important as apparently the male aspects. But you have Manwë, who becomes Lord of the Sky, Lord of Eagles. The eagles of the Misty Mountains, like the big ones who can talk, they are basically his favorite creations. Some of them have spirits in them. And he becomes king of Arda because he is most aligned with Eru. Like, he and Eru vibe on like a similar level. So Manwë kind of takes over the lordship of Arda. He is married to Varda, Queen of the Stars, Lady of Light. Because there is no sun, there is no moon, there are only stars, and she is, I believe she is described as like one of the only people that Melkor fears because of her sheer ability of just creating light against his shadow. There is Ulmo, Lord of the Oceans. He is not married to anyone, and he's kind of very much more of a softer figure. He's always there to listen to the woes and cares of the world, and he brings back the messages of those in need to Valinor. Whether they do anything with that remains to be seen. But he is like Lord of the Waves, and yeah. Then the next power couple are Aule, Lord of the Earth, and basically the craftsman of the Valar. He is the one who creates the dwarves. That happens later, but he's very similar in mind to Melkor in that he wants to create, but he always wants to create things that are essentially of themselves. His love is in the actual crafting, not in like the command overwords. So then you have his wife, Yavanna, who is basically the Mother Earth type figure. Plants and animals are her domain. She makes sure that the Ents are a thing. That happens in a story that we'll cover soon. And so she She is very much like the Lady of Harvest, the Lady of Forests, the Lady of Trees, of Animals, all that such. Then you have, actually, just to make sure I get them all. Okay, good. So yeah. You have, Aule, Yavanna, Vara, Manwë. Then you have the two brothers of spirits, Mandos and Irmo. Mandos is basically the Hades of this world. He is the keeper of the dead. He's the doomsman of the Valar. He's a very grim figure. The halls of Mandos are where, when elves and humans die, they visit the halls of Mandos. And the elves stay in the halls of Mandos until they reach a point where they are reincarnated, while humans stay in Mandos for a little bit and then are sent on to another world where we don't know where. Irmo is the Lord of Visions. Well, technically, Mandos's real name is Namo. Yeah, thank you, Honeybee. His real name is Namo. It should be. But because he lives in the halls of Mandos, he is also mostly known as Mandos. Because Irmo lives in Lorien. Now, this is not Galadriel's Lorien. This is the real Lorien. Technically, when you refer to where Galadriel lives in Lord of the Rings, you should refer to it as Loth Lorien, because Lorien is actually this beautiful garden in Valinor where basically Irmo lives. He is the Lord of Visions and Dreams, and he's very... I always imagine him being like the hippie Valar, who's just kind of just smoking weed all the time, kicking back, not really doing much. You have Vaire, who, yes, she weaves the fate of the world, and then kind of covers the halls of Mandos in tapestries. Then you have Este. She is a healer of hurts and weariness, and she lives with her husband Irmo. Then you have Orome, who is the huntsman Valar. He is a slayer of monsters and all sorts of terrible creatures. He just takes those motherfuckers out. Then his wife is Vanna, the younger sister of Yavanna, and she is similar to her sister in that she's lesser in might, but has kind of the same power over like smaller aspects of the world. I think she is she's only known as the Everyoung. Oh, I guess she doesn't really have that much authority. Her power is she's young. Good for her. Anyway, we covered Ulmo. Nienna is the only other Valar who is not quote unquote married to someone. She is essentially the goddess of sorrow, but also kind of wisdom. Gandalf ends up hanging around her a lot, and he becomes very a big part of his wisdom in Lord of the Rings comes from Nienna, who taught him a lot. Then you have Tulkas. Tulkas is, if you can imagine, just Thor, basically. Like, he is a party bro who's down to clown. He doesn't wield a weapon. His fists are his weapons, and he just can beat the shit out of you. He is, like, the strongest, I guess you could say, of the Valar in just sheer might. In that, like, a punch from him will just lay out a Balrog, and he'll just be like, no problem. And then you have his wife, Nessa, who is Orome's little sister. She was the least powerful of the Valar, but she's noted for her speed and dancing ability. There we go. Then you have the Maiar, who are the spirits who basically live under like each of the Valar and act as kind of their servants. So you have Osse and Uinen, who are a couple, I believe, and they are under the power of Ulmo. Ase is like the storm. He's like the violent aspect of the ocean, where like if ever you have like if there's a storm, you can bet that it's Ase who's doing it. Ywinen is, I believe, the Lady of the Depths. I believe. She's just the Lady of the Sea. Yeah. Ase, I believe, is primarily associated with the coasts, while Ywinen is more with, like, the deep sea, like, out there in the middle of the ocean. And then I believe Ulmo is relieved, I believe Ulmo is, like, his big thing is, like, the depths, but he can also, like, go up rivers. He's not just Lord of the Sea, he's Lord of the Waters, basically, because rivers are his control and that sort of thing. Then you have Eonwe, who is the herald of Manwe. He is greatly skilled at, like, arms. He likes swords and shields. He's a great duelist. He's very good. Then you have Aryan, who is a fire spirit, and she is very. There are so many of these. Oh yeah, because technically, yeah. We'll get to some of these later. And then of course you have the basically you have the wizards. So Saruman is his real name is Kurumo, and he serves Aule as a craftsman. Gandalf technically serves Manwe, but he's hung out with Nienna a lot more. Radagast is a servant of Yavanna. Then you have Alatar and Polando, who are the blue wizards, and they serve Orome. They are the huntsmen. And then you have Sauron, who starting out is a Maiar of Aule, but he gets corrupted very quickly. You notice that a lot of the followers of Aule like fall really quickly. All right. So they have this whole world, and they're ready, rip-roaring, and ready to go. And so the Valar, they do their thing where they and the Maiar start building things up, and then Melkor comes along and rips it all down. They build something up, he comes along and rips it all down. But then you have a point where the world that they create looks like this. So, like, the world they create is perfectly a perfect circle with a massive lake in the middle, with an island on it called Almaran, where the Valar and the Maiar live. They live there, and then they create two pillars to hold up two massive, beautiful lamps that Varda has put her light into. And like Aule has crafted these lamps, and they build them up on these pillars. There's Iluin, the northern pillar, and there is Ormal, the southern pillar. And they have these lamps atop them. So basically, everything is fine for this point. And at this point, when Tulkas joins the Valar, he's like a latecomer. He comes down from the heavens when he hears that Melkor has been causing trouble. I believe it's described as like when he heard there was trouble in the Little Kingdom. So he comes down into it. He scares off Melkor. Melkor runs and hides, creates a small fortress for himself. And at this point, Melkor has like corrupted many to his service. A lot of them are spirits of fire, which become the Balrogs. They start as Maiar, but then they become Balrogs. And Gothmog the Balrog is their chieftain. And then you also have Sauron, who slowly but surely is corrupted to his authority. And he creates this great fortress in the north and calls it Utumno. And he creates kind of all these darkness and vapors to hide himself so they can't see him. And so he waits for like a feast day on Almaran, where all the Valar and Maiar are getting together and are eating and drinking, and Tulkas is very, like, kind of sleepy. He and Nessa just hooked up, so he's kind of just like, oh, yeah. And then he waits for them all to be just kind of very lulled into a false sense of security. And then he comes on in with his Balrogs and everything, and he tips over the lanterns, first Iluin and then Ormal, and like the light inside them spills out and fires start, and he starts like just raising all sorts of hell. And then eventually he flees again, and like by this point he has caused enough destruction that he has created. So the world has come from this perfect circle with all the landmass in the middle and one lake in the middle to be separated into these fragments, these continents. He returns to Utumno in the north, and he basically stays there. The Valar, once they get the rest of the world under control, like they have, like the world isn't imploding anymore. They're like, well, shit, where do we go now? And so they decide to head west, into the west, where they create the Kingdom of Valinor. Now, this continent over here is actually called Aman, and Valinor only refers to this part behind these mountains called the Pelori. And everything else is kind of more... just kind of unrestricted over here. But behind the Pelori, that's kind of like the safe haven of themselves. And they create the city of Valmar, and they remove themselves from the center of the world to dwell here in the west. Morgoth has retreated to hide in Utumno, and they don't know where he is. He's basically hidden himself in this ancient fortress. If you can see, actually, the world looks much different in that Gondor is actually right here. This is where Mordor will appear. The Anduin is coming down here. Here are the Misty Mountains. Like the Shire would be right over here. Isengard. Yeah, and like here's like where the Grey Haven should be. The world is all completely changed. And so, you have essentially the Valar in the west. They're not doing anything. They're kind of waiting for the firstborn to arrive, the elves. And so, I need to gather my thoughts for a second. I'll see what you guys are saying. Yeah, Tulkas literally gets drunk. Alright, I think I'm slowly gathering my thoughts. Anyway. So the Valar and the Maiar have retreated back into here. In the north, you have, in the region of Everlasting Cold, you have Melkor kind of residing in his great fortress of Utumno, kind of biding his time to fuck up the world again. Maasa and Makar? I actually don't know what you're talking about, Aaron. Was that one of the Maiar? No. Oh, they're cut content. Okay, well, never mind then. Oh, they're the twins of, like, war, aren't they? Anyway, so eventually, the elves awake in this place over here called Quivienen. And they awake to only the sound of water and the sight of stars. Because remember, without the pillars now, there is no real light. Well, there is light, actually. There is, like, actual light other than starlight. Because in Valinor, Yavanna took some of the light that spilled out, and she watered these two trees with it. And the two trees are... Tannic... I gotta check the name. Valinor... yes, Telperion and Laurelin. And here's a picture of them. So... Oh, for fucking Pinterest. Actually, ooh, this one's very good. So yeah, so Telperion gives off this silver light, very similar to moonlight, and Laurelin gives off this bright golden light, very similar to sunlight. And so over time, they are oh yeah, sorry. Oh man. I wonder if there's anything in this drink that might make me more absent-minded. Anyway. So. Shit. Don't make fun of me for getting this word for sunlight, okay? The whole point of this is that I'm not giving you a concise fucking picture of these things. So, yeah, these massive trees give off this beautiful light. And, like, they wax and wane together. They're, like, during what would be considered the night. Telperion is giving off a lot of its light, and then starts to dim. And then Laurelin is starting, like, they wax as the other wanes. And, like, kind of that's how a day-night cycle is kind of maintained. And then together, like, when they're both kind of, like, when they reach about the same amount of light, they are extending. It's called the mingling of the light, and it's considered, like, one of the most beautiful things that you have seen in the world. So, ooh, I forgot. So, there's a story about Aule and Yavanna. And so, Aule, this is before the elves awaken, and he's very anxious to meet the elves. And because he wants to teach what he knows, because he knows so much about crafting, and he's like, oh shit, man, when they come here, I'm gonna teach them. When the elves arrive, I'm gonna teach them so much shit. They're gonna fucking love it. They're gonna go crazy. I'm gonna be the best teacher they got. But he's like really anxious, and he can't wait anymore. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to create students for me, and then I'm gonna teach them everything I know. Oh. And he's like, oh, I can't wait to have more people, like, to teach and, like, pass my knowledge on to and see what they do with it. So, in secret, he creates the 7 fathers of the dwarves. And he basically keeps it all hush-hush. However, Eru knows what's up. And one of his big no-nos is that you do not create, like, life that is supposed to be sentient. You can create, like, animal life. You can create, like, different animals and fish and birds, and you can do that. But you cannot create sentient life. And so he appears to Aule, and he's like, what the fuck, dude? You're not supposed to do this. This is something Melkor would do. You're not supposed to do this. And Aule's like, well, I'm sorry. I just really wanted students to teach. I just really wanted to pass on my knowledge, but if you want me to destroy them, I will. And he raises up his hammer to destroy his creation, the first dwarves. But then Eru holds up his hand and like stops him, and he's like, "Hey, did you hear that? They cried out for mercy. The fathers of the dwarves, as he raises a hammer, cry out for mercy in the language Kuzdul that Aule taught them. Like he created, like Aule's a big fucking nerd. He created his own language and then taught it to the dwarves. But like the dwarves like cry out for like mercy, and like Eru goes, hold on. Did you hear that? If they truly had no souls, they would not have flinched from your blow. And he says, essentially he's like, I have basically adopted your creations. These are my adopted children, the children of my choosing. Like he chose to make them his children, even though technically he chose to create the elves and humans. But he's like, they are my adopted children, while the elves and humans are my primary children. However, and he's like, I will permit the dwarves to continue existing. However, I will not allow them to start building their civilizations before my firstborn arrive. So he then he takes the dwarves, he puts them in like these secret caverns all across the world, and basically he puts them to sleep and puts a spell over them so that they will wake up sometime after the elves appear in Middle-earth. So Aule is overjoyed about this. He's like, my children get to live. This is so exciting. And he runs off and he tells Yavanna. And Yavanna is like, okay, well, very merciful for Eru to do this bullshit, but I'm your fucking wife, and you didn't tell me that you created a race of people? And he's like, I just was so excited. And she's like, okay, yeah, all right, well, good for you that Eru has allowed your children to live, but what are they going to do to my children? It seems everyone else gets dominion over my shit. Everyone gets to just knock down trees when they want to. That's bullshit. That fucking sucks. So she goes to Manwë, and she goes, did you hear about this bullshit? That Aule just gets to have his dwarves, and that's just even more people to keep chopping down my trees? My trees are living things too. And Manwë's like, yeah, man, you're right. Here, let me do some clown-to-clown communication with Eru for a second. And he kind of goes up to, Eru kind of, reveals, he goes back in his mind to the songs. And, the original song of, the times when he and Yavanna would sing together. And a lot of it had to do with, how, the birds would find nesting in the trees, and there would be wind blowing through the branches, and those beautiful aspects of the world. And so he comes back to Yavanna, and he says, you're right. The elves, men, and dwarves will have dominion over your world. They will have dominion over your creations, because that is simply the way of things. But you will not be alone. He says, what part of your creation do you value the most? If you could have anything to protect, from the bushes to the trees to the birds to the beasts, what would you protect most? And she goes, well, birds and beasts can run away. They can escape. But the trees can't. They're rooted in place. So I would want something to protect the trees. And Manwë basically says, think back to our song. There will be someone to protect the trees. Meaning basically the Ents. The Ents will be there to shepherd the forest and protect it. And Yavanna's overjoyed, and she's like, holy shit, yeah! And then my trees can grow as big as mountains and can house the eagles of Manwë. And Manwë's like, well, let's not go that far. In the end, the eagles will only ever house themselves in the mountains. But your trees will still grow tall. So Yavanna comes back all cocky to Aule, and she's like, you got something, but you know what? Your fucking dwarves better be careful, because if they fuck around with the forest too much, the Ents are gonna come for them. And I love Aule's response, in which he's smithing when she comes to tell him, and he goes, they'll still need firewood. And he just keeps smithing, and it's just like, okay, and like the story just ends at like Outlet going, they will still have need of firewood. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how I feel about that line, but well, Spectraling, the dwarves don't hate trees, but to them, trees are a resource. They are not a, like, they don't really acknowledge them as much as, like, living parts of the environment as they do, like, a possible means of, like, a possible crafting material. So, that's good shit. Anyway, so the dwarves are basically spread out around the world, and like Durin of Durin's folk, he is hidden up here, under Mount Gundabad at the top of the Misty Mountains, and then eventually he wanders down to like the cave that soon becomes Moria. And like that happens, and like you have two dwarves over here in the Blue Mountains that come into contact with the elves later, and then it's assumed that the rest of the dwarves are over here in the Red Mountains, the Orokani. So yeah. So in the end, like everything's quiet. Melkor is still hidden up here, being his dicky little self. The elves are chilling. Not the elves. The Valar and Maiar are chilling over here. The elves awaken over here in Cuivienen, and they begin like a nice little existence. They don't have much to worry about. The woods provide a lot of what they need to eat. They are very much like the firstborn. They're experiencing things. They are singing beside the waters of Cuivienen. Of the inland sea of Helkar. However, eventually, Melkor starts to hear about things from some of his servants who go abroad. And, like, sometimes when an elf or a small group might wander out into the woods, they never come back. And the elves say the huntsman got them. And, like, it's very much like they start to grow terrified of the woods around them in the wilds. Until one day, who should come across them but Orome, the huntsman of the Valar, and in fact many of them flee, because they said the huntsman got the other elves. Well, here's a huntsman, and he's very big and powerful. But some of them stay and listen to him. And he's like, holy shit, you're the firstborn. And they're like, we're the what? I'm a what? You're firstborn, Harry. And it's like, He's very amazed, and he sits with them, and they talk for hours and hours on end. He stays with them for years, teaching them different things, and of how to survive in the wilds. And then eventually, he's like, well, one sec. I need to let the other Valar know that you guys are awake. So just stay here, be safe, look out for whatever that fucking huntsman guy is. Just stick together in big groups, and you should be fine. I'll be right back. And so he goes all the way back to Valinor. He talks with the other Valar, and they're like, holy shit, they're here. And then they go, well, wait. The world is so fucking dangerous, and I'm betting that huntsman, it's gotta be Melkor. We gotta find that motherfucker. And so they basically search him out. They find Utumno, and basically the first great war happens between basically the Valar and Melkor. And in the end, like, massive parts of this part of the world up here are devastated simply by the sheer power of Melkor and the Valar coming together in battle. Like, the entire that part of the world is just destroyed. However, it's all basically an Arctic wasteland anyway, so not much has been lost. So, Melkor, Tulkas goes down into Autumno, basically, you know, like the fucking like Sasuke meme of like the hand on the throat pinned against the wall. Tulkas basically does that to Melkor. Aule brings out these chains he forged, and they tie up Melkor, and they throw him into the halls of Mandos, which are basically, not only do they act as like the realm of the dead, but in special cases they also act as the prison for people the Valar don't want wandering the world. Utumno falls. However, there was an outpost of Utumno called Angband, and Sauron, the lieutenant of Melkor, rallies the Balrogs, and they flee to Angband, where they remain hidden, while their master has been basically thrown in prison. And they're like, okay, we'll just sit tight, don't do anything. We'll cover this later. So, I'm loving it more. Oh, this would definitely be the part where Bilbo's like, and here's another thing. Why the fuck were the hobbits? That's what I want to know. Where's the hobbits? Anyway, so Melkor is safely locked away in Mandos. The Balrogs and Sauron are hiding away in Angband. They're not daring to come out because they saw the shit that went down. And so the fucking essentially Orome returns to the elves, and the elves are terrified because the amount of destruction that happened in the north, they have been able to feel over here. Like, they've, like, all the earthquakes and shit, they're like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? And they're really skittish. So Orome comes back, and he's like, hey, everything's fine. The bad guy's gone. However, we do know there's still evil here in the world. So, if you want, you guys can come back to Valinor with me. I'll lead you back, and you'll be safe there. And so, the elves are like, I don't know, man. Like, this is the only home we've ever really known. And anytime we've ventured outside from this home, we get fucking got. So we're not too big on the idea. However, there are 3 elves who are like, we will go investigate. We will be the ambassadors of the elves. And we will go to this place of Valinor, and then we will come back and tell you guys whether or not we think we should go. So they are Ingwe, Finwë, and Elwë. They are not related. They just all end with Wë. Ingwe is... his people are basically become known as the... fuck. Because they do... Finwë's people have so little to do with what happens in Middle-earth after this point. They are... the Vanyar! Thank you, Aaron. The Vanyar, who are the highest of the High Elves, because they're oh so holy and above everything. And they're all blonde and beautiful, and yeah, with golden hair. So Ingwe is their lord. Then you have Finwë, Lord of the Noldor, who are very kind of strong, and they're very like they tend to be black-haired and very strong, and later they become great craftsmen. And then you have Elwë, representative of the Teleri, which are like the greatest number of, like, it's kind of like a pyramid. The smallest amount of the elves are Vanyar. The second largest, like the middle like amount, are Noldor. But the biggest population are Teleri. And their lord is Elwë. But because there are so many of them, there's kind of like a dual lordship, with Elwë and his brother Olwë being kind of the lords of the Teleri. And the Teleri are well known for having silver hair, so it's all very beautiful. Oh, did you hear that? So yes. So so Ingwe, Finwë, and Elwë accompany Orome back to Valinor, and they see the wonders of Valinor. They see the great, beautiful mountains of the Pelori. They see the plentiful plain of Valinor, the gardens of Yavanna, the gardens of Lorien, the beauty of the city of Valimar, and most of all, the sheer power of the two trees. Now, the thing about the light that comes from the two trees, it makes you fucking strong, dude. Like, it is like a hit up of energy and strength. So that when Ingwe, Finwë, and Elwë return to the elves in Cuiviénen, they are like radiating light because they have been in the presence of the two trees for so long. They are bigger, they are brighter, they are like radiating this lordship, so that the other elves are like, holy shit, what the fuck happened? But they're like, guys, you gotta go there. It's amazing. We gotta go, like, right now. And so the other elves are like, oh shit, okay. Oh, it's kind of like the idea of like, for those of you who've read this thing called the Bible, like when Moses like comes down from the mountain after talking with God, his face is glowing from, I don't know, God radiation. And like the people are like, oh, it's kind of the same with Ingwe, Finwë, and Elwë. So they return. A large majority of the elves are like, okay, you know what? Let's get up and go. However, there is a minority who's like, you know what? We'll stay here. So Orome, like this massive migration of elves, they go around here, the northern side, and then they hit the Anduin. However, when they see the Misty Mountains, these are like the first real mountains they've had to cross. They're like, oh shit, we're fucking terrified. Like, those are fucking scary things. And at this point, like, it actually takes them a long while, because every now and again, Orome will be like, hey, just heard there was a monster over here I gotta go kill. You guys can keep going, I can catch up with you. But the elves are like, yeah, well, no, we don't feel safe without you. So, like, they make big camps, like, every now and again. Like, every time Orome leaves them, they stop, and they don't move until he comes back. So, eventually they reach here. A portion of the Teleri elves, under, I believe it's Denethor. I believe their lord is, like, the original Denethor. Denethor. Oh, Lenwë. Lenwë is the one who leads them away south, and his son Denethor later comes back. Yes. So, Lenwë leads them off south. Oh. Yeah. So, Lenwë, when they reach these mountains and Orome leaves them, they're like, oh man, these are fucking terrifying mountains. So Lenwë is like, you know what, I'm just going to follow this river, see where it leads. He leads a portion of the Telerian elves down basically here, where Gondor will eventually come into play. And that's where they stay until eventually his son Denethor leads them back westward. But they stay here for a while. Orome returns, they cross the mountains, they keep going, they cross the Blue Mountains over here into Beleriand, and they stop here because they've reached the ocean. And they're like, how are we going to get across? The ocean is fucking terrifying. Look at that shit. I can't swim. So, Orome's kind of like, yeah, well, gosh, didn't really think of that. You guys stay here, make camp here in this part of the world called Beleriand. I will go confer with the other Valar about what we're going to do. So the elves are like, okay, all right. So the Vanyar, the Noldor, and the Teleri all set up different camps. The Teleri have multiple camps because there's so fucking many of them. And so one day Elwë is like, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I will go into those woods. I will see you guys later. Always in charge until I come back. I'll check with you guys later. So he goes into this forest called Nan Elmoth. Let me get... Okay, so here's a larger one of Beleriand. So, like, Ingwe is, and, like, the Vanyar are over here. You got the Noldor, who are, I believe... like up here, and then you have the Teleri who are just kind of all around here. Oh wait, Elwë leaves where he's not like, I'm not going to go for a walk. He's like, I want to go visit my best friend Finwë, who's up here. You guys stay here. Like I said, always in charge until I come back. So he goes basically. Oh. He basically enters this forest called Nan Elmoth, which is a very, if you ever want to think like dark enchanted forest, think Nan Elmoth, because it's very eerie, and like the canopy is so thick that it can block out a lot of light. And remember, everything's starlight. There's no moon, there's no sun. Everything is just starlight. So it's dim already. But in Nan Elmoth, he comes across this beautiful, enchanting creature who has this voice that sounds like 100 different nightingales. This is Melian. Melian is a Maiar of, I believe, Lorien. Yes, a Maiar of Irmo, basically. And she, like, lives in... When she's in Valinor, she lives in Lorien, but she loves coming to Middle-earth to sing with the different birds here, because she is a great, powerful singer. And like I said at the beginning, remember, singing is a magic in the Silmarillion. Singing is an enchantment. Singing, you can weave spells with song. And so, as she's singing, Elwë comes to her, and he, like, is enchanted, and they look into each other's eyes, and bam, they are both in a trance, just gazing at each other for years. This trance happens for years. I don't know how they're sustained, but they're basically in suspended animation, just locked in each other's eyes. And time passes. And so the Teleri are like, holy shit, where's our king? Where is our king? He was fucking right here. And always like, I'm the younger brother. I'm not supposed to be in charge. What's going on? And so, while they're kind of in chaos, like Finwë's like, okay, everyone, we gotta search for him. We gotta search for him. So, like, you have the Noldor helping out the Teleri search for Elwë. They never find him. They can't find him. So basically... eventually Orome comes over, and he's with Ase, Lord of the Coasts. And Ase is like, okay, guys, see this big island over here in this bay? This is going to be your ship. So we're going to pop you on here. We're going to sail you over to Valinor on this floating island, and then everything will be fine. And so, of course, the Vanyar are like, hell yeah, let's go. They get on. The Noldor, like, go to the Teleri, and they're like, sorry, but we can't keep looking. We gotta go too. So the Noldor get on board the island. And so the Teleri are like, well, what do we do? So Olwe goes, well, I know we promised a lot of you that we're going to go to Valinor, so I will lead you guys onto here if we want. No, wait, no, not yet. The Teleri are like, we can't leave without our lord. We can't fucking leave. So, Ase is like, hey, you know what? I like having the elves on the shores of Middle-earth because I love hearing them sing. So if you want to just go, that's fine. So they uproot the island. They float it all the way over to... Yeah, they float it all the way down here, where it becomes the plain of Valinor. And, like, they dock. The Vanyar and Noldor get off. Ase brings the island back north. And he's like, okay, you guys gonna come? And the Teleri are like... And Olwe at this point says, okay, yes, I will. We cannot find my brother. I think he might just be gone forever. For those of you who will follow me, I will lead us to Valinor. So a sizable part of the Teleri then go with him. The island takes off again. However, they stop just short of Valinor because Ase is like, I don't want you to take them away from the ocean. Because first off, these Teleri, like the Teleri, love water. They love the ocean. And so Ase is like, can they just stick here? And the Teleri are like, yeah, we kind of like it right here because we're so used to starlight. We don't think we could handle the two trees just yet, so let's just stay here for a time. So they allow for it to happen. The Isle of Balar is actually part of, like, Tol Eressëa and the Isle of Balar were actually one island, but the Isle of Balar broke off when they were finally going back. But the islands get rooted back into place. They're not going to move again. But there were a portion of the Teleri who were like, no, we're going to keep looking for our king, and we're not going to stop until we do. The person who was leading them was Círdan. Now, Círdan is the elf who basically, like, is Lord of the Grey Havens in the Third Age. He is like the oldest elf in the world that we actually meet in Lord of the Rings. Like, he was one of the first elves to wake up over here at Cuiviénen, and then he just sticks around forever. It's to the point where, as an elf, he's so old that he has grown a beard, which, like, elves can do when they are, like, incredibly old. So, essentially, he sticks around. He's like, we're going to stick by the shores, but I'm going to keep looking for my king, because, god damn it, no man left behind, am I right? Around this point, Elwë kind of, like, later on, Elwë, like, awakes from his trance with Melian, and they're like, are we gonna get fucking married? And Melian's like, yeah, I think we are gonna get fucking married. So they get married, and he comes back, reveals himself to the Teleri, and because Melian is a Maiar who has been in the light of the trees, the majesty of Elwë remains strong, even when he's not in the light of the trees anymore. He can keep maintaining it. So he reveals himself to the Teleri, and the Teleri are like, oh my god, you're back, and like, you've been fucking this goddess apparently, so good on you, my dude, you're our king again. Are we going to Valinor? And he's like, nah, we can live here. And he takes the name of Ilu Thingol, King Greymantle. And he sets up basically his seat of power here at Menegroth. And if you think of what Menegroth is, imagine the Elven King's halls in Mirkwood. Thranduil basically makes his halls so they can look similar to how Menegroth looked, because Thranduil's father, Orifer, came from Doriath, and like, Celeborn, Galadriel's husband, he's one of the elves of Doriath, and they kind of just build up this fucking little kingdom for themselves. And Sauron is still up here in Angband, just beyond this plain called Ardgallen, which is what's known right now. But yeah, the elves build up here. Círdan is like, you know what? I've been having sex with Ase. It's not canon, but I feel like Círdan's been getting some from his water god boyfriend on the side. But he basically is like, me and my people are going to live here on the sides of the ocean at these two ports called Eglarist and Brithambar, because we love the ocean so much. We're going to stay over here. You're still our king. So technically Thingol, who is Elwë, is king of basically all of Beleriand in this time. So, I need to lean back for a second. Oh, God. Actually, one sec. I'm feeling munchy. I'm gonna throw some popcorn in the microwave. I will be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Sorry. Oh, you guys have, you guys can hear me and my roommate. How lovely. Yeah, I'm popping some popcorn right now. So, while all that is going on, let's get some Valinor art on here. Oh, this painting is by Oronia over on DeviantArt. Check her out. Valinor. Some of these aren't even pictures of Valinor. Actually, because I learned a lot of my imaginings come from my edition of the Silmarillion with illustrations by Ted Naismith. Let me come up, because there's some good art in here. Nah. Cha-cha-cha. Why are there Warcraft pictures on here? This is fucking weird. Yeah, you know what? I like... I don't like that. I don't like that. Yeah, you know what? We'll just stick with this map. Oh, actually, this one's kind of good. One sec. My popcorn's done. Okay. Alright. Oh. Yes, drink with me, friends. Grab what you got. Alright, so. Let me tell you some more. I'm getting kind of low on this one. Pop it. Yeah, there's a chance that we might just have to split this into two parts. This is so good. All right, Silmarillion. So, oh god. Or I got my kernels. What's everyone drinking? Ah, damn it. Alright. So. The Vanyar, Noldor, and Teleri basically set up shop here in Valinor. Most of the living here is around this area. Like Valimar is right here, where the two trees are. And then most of the elves kind of live up here and down here. They don't live too far from Valimar. So, the elves are like, we don't want to be completely cut off from the stars. So, the Valar create this pass through the mountains called the Kalakiria. And that acts as like a way for like elves who miss the starlight to leave the light of the two trees and basically look out onto here. The Teleri who live here on the island of Erisea eventually are like, okay, we're ready to go over into Valinor now. And so Olmo teaches them how to build boats. And these majestic boats get built. And then swans actually basically get tied and pull the boats to shore over here. Olwe basically becomes king of the Teleri in Valinor, while his brother Elwë is king of the Teleri in Beleriand. And he creates the port city of Alqualonde, which is basically Elven for Swan Haven. Meanwhile, initially the elves build this city right here called Tirion on Tuna. Tuna is the hill it's built on. Tirion is the city itself. And so they build the city. The Tower of Ingwe is this beacon. However, a lot of the Vanyar basically can't stand to be cut off from essentially they love Manwë so much, and Manwë dwells here on Taniquetil, which is the biggest mountain in the world. He and Varda live at the top at Ilmarinen. And a lot of the Vanyar basically leave Tirion behind and basically dwell on the mountain. So they don't. So basically, in the end, the only ones who still dwell in Tirion upon Tuna are the Noldor, who kind of stay there. So they have the Teleri in Alqualonde, the Noldor in Tirion, and the Vanyar on Taniquetil. So everything's fine and good. Eventually, the elves start getting busy, you know what I'm saying? And they start having children here in Valinor. And so, time for the family trees. So, so you have Finwë, who is Lord of the Noldor. He decides that he has a wife named Mirio, and all Noldor basically have a good craft that they're good at. And Mirio is very good at weaving, and her tapestries are renowned by the Noldor, and she's very they really love her for that. So she becomes pregnant and gives birth to Feanor. However, she essentially gives so much. Feanor is called basically the greatest elf that ever was. So cunning and powerful and stern and amazing. There's a description actually. Let me. Yeah, let me actually just read a segment for you guys, because I don't think I could do Feanor justice. Da, da, da. Well, actually, okay, let's deal with the fact that Miriel basically gives birth to Feanor, and Feanor means spirit of fire. And so, however, after she gives birth to him, she basically succumbs to post-something depression. It's when a mother kind of becomes depressed after giving birth. I'm going to need help looking for the word. Oh, postpartum depression, yes. She basically comes down with the first ever case of postpartum depression in the world, which is a big bummer for her. And she tells Finwë, she's like, "This is the only kid I'm gonna have." And Finwë's like, "Are you shitting me? We're jump starting our population here. We need to have a lot of kids." And she's like, "Well, that sucks for you, because I put everything in me into this one elf, and I could never bear to have another. And even right now, I don't think I could keep on living." And so Finwë's like all distressed, and he goes to fucking Manwë and says, "My wife is just like, she's wanting to die. I need help." And Manwë's like, "Well, the best I can do is have her stay in Lorien, where she'll be tended to and given rest and peace." And she is taken there. She lays down, and her body falls asleep, but her spirit departs into the halls of Mandos, where she just dwells from then on. Her body is still in Lorien. It is constantly tended to. But she dies, basically, because she gave so much of her spirit, her like will to live, her vibe, into her son, Feanor. And then eventually she, like, because she's such a great seamstress and stuff, her spirit then helps Vaire, the weaver of fate. She actually helps her weave tapestries to hang in the halls of Mandos, depicting the history of Middle-earth. So, her son Feanor, let me describe him. He was tall and fair of face, and masterful, his eyes piercingly bright, and his hair raven dark, in the pursuit of all his purposes eager and steadfast. Few ever changed his courses by counsel, none by force. He became of all the Noldor, then or after, the most subtle in mind, and the most skilled in hand. In his youth, bettering the work of Rúmil, he devised those letters which bear his name, and which the Eldar used ever after. And he it was who, first of the Noldor, discovered how gems, greater and brighter than those of the earth, might be made with skill. The first gems that Feanor made were white and colorless, but being set under starlight they would blaze with blue and silver fires, brighter than Helluin. And other crystals he made also, wherein things far away could be seen, small but clear. The Palantirs. He creates the Palantirs. As with the eyes of the eagles of Manwë. Seldom were the hands and mind of Feanor at rest. And so, Feanor is just this ball of fire. He's a passionate guy who is always doing something, and very arrogant, and he cannot be, like, stopped, basically. Like, he is a vibe. So, Miriel dies, and Finwë's like, he goes to visit her body every day, and he's like, fuck. But after he realizes she's not coming back, he gives all his love to Feanor, which kind of turns out to be a bad thing soon enough. So he just gives all his love to Feanor. So Feanor kind of becomes slightly spoiled, in that all his father's love is given to him. Feanor becomes a student of Matan, who is another Noldor, and who was taught by Aule himself how to smith and craft things with metal. And he becomes his student, and then eventually marries his daughter, Nurdinel, who she is described as like the greatest sculptor of stone, making stone statues of the Noldor. And I love it when in all the pictures of her, she is just ripped as all hell, like back muscles for days. So eventually Finwë he's really lonely. He wants a spouse. He needs someone because he loves his son, but he's like, I want to be with someone else. And so this is the first case of an elf ever having like a second marriage. So he goes to Manwë. He's like, is this allowed? And Manwë's like, yeah, it's allowed. So Finwë marries Indis, who is a kinswoman of Ingwe. So she's a Vanyar, so blonde hair, all that jazz. And they have 2 sons. They have 2 sons and I believe a daughter. Yeah, Yrme. Oh, sorry, 2 sons and 2 daughters. So there's Findis and Yrme, the daughters, and then there's Fingolfin and Finarfin. Fingolfin looks more like Finwë in that he has the black hair of the Noldor, and he's very tall and he's very honorable. But he's also like he's constantly wanting the approval of Feanor. Then you have Finarfin, who takes after his mother, and he's blonde, and he's very wise, and he's very much like the chill brother, where he's like, it's all good, man. Wisdom, dude. Learn it. So, Finwë marrying Indis does not sit well with Feanor. It's like you're not my real mom, that kind of thing. And so Feanor basically just cuts himself off from Indis and her sons and daughters. And he's like, they don't exist. It's just me and my dad. And I'm not talking to them. I'm never talking to them. They can fuck off. And so he marries Nurdinel, and they have 7 sons. There is Maithros, the Tall, who has his mother's red hair. Maglor, who is the greatest singer of all time. He's the bard of the party, basically. Celegorm, who's big on hunting. Caranthier, who's the brooding middle child. Honestly, he's called Caranthier the Dark because he's always like, there's Crufin, who's is most like his father in that he's a craftsman and he loves crafting. And then there's Amrod and Amras, who are twins who have red hair, and you don't really know much else about them. Crufin's son Celebrimbor is actually the elf who ends up crafting the Rings of Power with Sauron later on in the Second Age. Then you have Fingolfin, and his children are Fingon, who is best friends with Maithros, and you see a lot of people ship these 2 cousins, which, to each their own. I'm not going to judge you based on this fake world, but yeah. Then there's Arethel. Then there's Turgon, who is big on architecture and stuff like that. Arethel, who is closest with Turgon, and Argon, who never gets mentioned at all. He basically just does not exist. So, then Finarfin's children are Finrod Felagund, Angrod and Aegnor, and a little person you might have heard of her named Galadriel. So, basically, this whole family is together. Maithros and Fingon, despite Feanor hating that side of the family, they become very close. Everything is sort of fine. The world is getting on. But then, Feanor gets into his mind of, I gotta craft something incredible. So he creates the Silmarils. actually. Yeah. Oh, first, Melkor. Melkor has been imprisoned in Mandos the entire time, and he's up for parole. And the Valar are like, do you promise not to do anything bad? He's like, oh, I would never. I promise I will always be here to help. I don't want to do anything bad. What? Me? The guy who was fucking ready for destruction from the get-go? I've learned my lesson. You guys have really shown me the error of my ways. Meanwhile, like, his fingers are crossed behind his back the entire time. So the Valar are like, okay, I don't really buy it, so you can be free. However, you have to stay here in Valinor where we can keep an eye on you. And he's like, no problem. In fact, I want to help teach the elves. He's like, I know. I tried to, kill them when they first showed up. I was wrong. This is what I meant for, to help them learn. And so the Valar are like, okay, alright, fine, whatever. So he basically ends up going among the elves, being like, hey, I'm ready to teach you. What do you want to learn from me? Now, the Teleri aren't really interested in what he has to teach them, because they aren't really craftsmen, they're much more musicians. The Teleri have great voices, and they love the sea. And Melkor hates the water. He's like a fucking cat, where he's like, ah! The Vanyar don't trust him, because they're closest with Manwë, so they're like, no. However, the Noldor are hungry to learn more. So, Morgoth gets all these Noldor students, and he's, teaching them a bunch of stuff. But Feanor never fully trusts him. But in this time, Feanor creates the Silmarils, which are 3 jewels. Now, in that description I read from the actual Silmarillion, he has learned how to create gems on his own without digging in the earth for them. These are wholly his handcrafted gems. So, there are these 3 perfect gems that he has actually instilled the light of the 2 trees within them. So, they glow, they're filled with holy light, and everyone who sees them is like, holy shit, that's inspired. Varda hollows them so that no evil can touch them without suffering pain. And everyone's like, Feanor, you're the fucking best. And Feanor's like, I know I'm the best. I'm Feanor. What are you gonna fucking do? I'm Feanor. And so Morgoth's like, damn, son, that's great. I want them, and I'm gonna get them. And he always claims that, from then on, he claims, yeah, I taught Feanor how to make the Silmarils, but in reality, he was fucking jealous as all hell of Feanor's skill. So, Morgoth starts kind of spreading rumors around, because he's like, you know what? Time for some discord. I'm tired as all hell with Valinor. Alright? He looks around, and he hates the elves, because it's because of the elves that the Valar were like, okay, let's go kick Melkor's ass. They would have left him alone if the elves hadn't woken up and been fucking bitches about it. So he starts planting rumors around. And oh, that one elf you don't really like? Yeah, no, he's looking to get the upper edge on you. And so elves in secret start smithing weapons. He teaches them how to create swords and spears and weapons like that. And then, each elf thinks that he's the only one who knows what the others are up to. And so there's this secret, armament building up among the Noldor. The Vanyar are still, clueless on the mountain, and the Teleri are like, yeah, leave us alone. We want to keep hanging on the beach. Right by the beach, boy! So, so he then looks at the house of Finwë, and is like, okay, well, Feanor already hates Fingolfin. So time for some shenanigans. So he starts to whisper that Fingolfin is looking to usurp Feanor in his father's favor. And also that the what causes? Because there's some particular. Oh, sorry, knock that. So yeah. So now, yeah, Melkor goes to both Feanor and Fingolfin, and he says to Feanor, like, "Oh, Fingolfin's trying to usurp your place as firstborn." And Feanor's like, "That's bullshit. I never liked that guy. I knew it." And so he starts building up a store of weapons. And Fingolfin, also Feanor is the first one to start smithing swords. The other elves who start smithing swords happen after him, because he's the first one that Melkor, well, he becomes Morgoth. Melkor kind of whispers. He's the first one he first whispers to. And then he starts spreading rumors for Fingolfin that Feanor is looking to basically have Finwë disown both Fingolfin and Finarfin. So they both start getting nervous. And so finally Fingolfin goes to Finwë in his court, basically, and goes up to his father's throne and says, "Hey, would you make Feanor shut the fuck up? All right, he's been spreading lies about us, and you need to keep him on a fucking leash." But at that moment, Feanor strides in with like a tall helmet and armor and girt with like a sword, and he hears this, and he like draws his sword. I think the line is like, "See this, brother?" Oh wait, no. He doesn't, he like comes in and he's like, "You're trying to usurp my place. I fucking knew it." And Fingolfin's like, "Hey, whoa, you're trying to do this to me. I'm just trying to defend myself." And Finwë is like, "You're both fucking stupid. Nothing wrong is happening. You're both being childish about this. Go on your way." And so Feanor is like, "Come on, bro. Let me talk to you outside." And so they leave the hall of Finwë. But just as they leave, Feanor draws his sword and holds it to Fingolfin's neck. And I believe his words are, "See this, brother? This is sharper than thy tongue." And he basically says, "Try to take my place, and I will fucking end you." And this is in the middle of, like, the city. Like, there are people seeing this. This is the first time an elf has threatened another elf. And everyone's like, "Oh, shit. Oh, fuck." And so the Valar hear about this, and they basically hear, "Hey, Feanor fucking threatened Fingolfin with a sword." So they call him into Valmar, to the Circle of Doom, which is basically their court system. And Manwë's like, "You threatened your fucking brother. That's not cool, man. That's not supposed to happen here in Valinor." And Feanor doesn't say anything. He's like, "I've done what I've done. I'm not going to apologize for defending my right as firstborn." And Manwë's like, "Okay, well, we can't have this. So you are hereby banished from Tirion. You cannot return to the city. You cannot attend these festivals. You are hereby banished until such a time as one of your brothers basically says, 'I will forgive you.'" And at that point, Fingolfin says, "I forgive my brother. He doesn't have to go." But Feanor's like, "No, I need to." Because he's like, "I'm not going to accept your forgiveness. I have nothing to be forgiven for." So he goes into exile. He creates a hall called Formenos, I believe, which is up north here. Let's see. Ooh, sorry. And yeah, it's like up north, and it's basically a fortress, like a fortress castle he builds for him and his family. So he and his, I believe his wife goes with him, but his 7 sons go with him, and Finwë goes with him, because as we said before, Feanor is Finwë's favorite son, and I think like Finwë technically, I think, loves Feanor more than he really loves Indis. He still loves Indis and Fingolfin and Finarfin, but, like, he will put Feanor in front of them. So he's like, as long as my son is exiled, I am exiled. And he goes into exile with Feanor. And so all the Noldor still living in Tirion are like, who's our leader? So Fingolfin kind of takes on, like, Fingolfin and Finarfin both jointly take on the role as, like, leaders of the community, while Finwë and Feanor are gone. Man, this is good fucking popcorn. Alright, so. In this time, Melkor is just like, yes, look at them. I'm the puppet master. Look what I've done. And so, he's like, you know what? Now I need the killing blow. Because he's like, I want those fucking Silmarils, and I want to ruin Valinor at the same fucking time. I have a plan. So, sorry. Oh, the drinking is really, whew. But then, yeah, he goes to basically Feanor at Formenos, and he's like, see, man, I fucking told ya. And if you think the Silmarils are going to be safe in here from the Valar, who also want them, trust me, I know, I'm a Valar technically. You and I need to team up against these other guys, because they're out to get you. And then he's like, come on, the Silmarils aren't safe. And Feanor starts getting swayed by Melkor, but then when Melkor brings up the Silmarils, Feanor looks in his eyes, and he can see that Melkor really wants those fucking jewels. And so basically, the equivalent of Satan, he basically says, get thee gone, thou jail crow of Mandos, and slams the door in his face, basically. And, like, Melkor is like, oh, fuck that guy! And he zips on out of there. At that point, the Valar have been doing investigating and found out that all these rumors are coming back to Melkor. And Orome and Tulkas, like, saddle up ready to find him. However, by now, he's fled. And they're like, oh, fuck, we don't know where he went. They think, at first, he is going north, back to Utumno, so they take off after him. However, he's actually gone south, because down here, outside the Pelori, on this strand of just kind of dark mountains down here, is Ungoliant, the Spider Queen. She is Shelob's mother, the greatest spirit to take spider form ever. She is massive, and she just eats light. Like, she feeds off light and just eats it and spouts out darkness. And Melkor knows she's there, and he knows she's powerful. And so he comes down, and he's like, hey, I have a plan. I know you're hungry for light. What if I told you I could help you devour all the light there is over there from those trees, the trees themselves? And she's like, really? And he's like, yeah, all you gotta do is help me out. I will make sure you are fed with both hands. I will give you all of it. And she's like, oh, I do like that. So, eventually there comes a feast day where Feanor is summoned to the Circle of Doom, because here's his point where he can be pardoned. However, Finwë is not in attendance, because until his son is officially pardoned, he will not leave Formenos. He will not return to Tirion. So, Feanor and his sons leave and go to Valmar for the celebrations. Fingolfin and Finarfin come over from Tirion and join in the festivities. And during the feasting, like, everyone's distracted, so they don't notice the massive darkness. This, well, did he Raklos? Because if his sons were at Formenos, wouldn't they have been killed? In any case, during this feast, no one's paying attention as this massive cloud of darkness comes out of the south and approaches the trees. And all of a sudden, the lights start to go out because Melkor takes his spear and basically stabs into the trees. And then Ungoliant brings her fangs into the trees and sucks out the light and, like, leaves behind, like, this black, inky venom that, like, starts killing the trees. And they do that to both trees. And the light just goes out, and everyone's fucking terrified. The Valar are caught off guard, and they're like, oh shit. Tulkas can't do anything because he can't see, so he's like, and so the cloud then moves north to Formenos. Moves off north, but everything's still dark. Word comes that the two trees have been destroyed, and Yavanna's like, I can't recreate the trees, but if I had just some of their light, I would be able to remake them. So, like, everyone looks to Feanor because the Silmarils have the light of the trees. But they're like, can we break open the Silmarils so that we can use the light to, like, give life back into the trees? And they're like, come on, answer. But, like, Aule the craftsman is like, cool it. You don't know what a maker's heart is like. You know, he really loves these things. I should know as a craftsman myself. Give him some time. So they're like waiting for his response, but he goes, no. Oh wait, no. He's just about to give his response when all of a sudden a messenger runs up and he goes, I just escaped from Formenos. A great, like, blackness came on the fortress city. Your father died defending the gates, and the vault that you kept the Silmarils in has been broken into, and the Silmarils are gone. And at that point, Feanor's like, fuck everything. Fuck you, you're cool, fuck all the rest of you. And he's just like, I have fucking had it. He's like, you guys can't even defend your own land. Now my fucking dad is dead, one of the only people who I really have truly loved, and the things I love the most, the part of my heart and soul that I put into these fucking gems, they're gone too. Melkor fucking took them. And I'm not even calling him Melkor anymore. His name is fucking Morgoth, and he's the fucking enemy. And I am going to take any who will follow me back to Middle-earth, and I will murder him. I will make a fucking stand and take my ship back. So he goes back to Tirion, makes this speech before the Noldor, and the Noldor's hearts are stirred. Fingolfin and Finarfin are hesitant because they're like, it's probably not good for us to do this. Like, this is our safe place. We can't leave. But Feanor's like, are you cowards? And basically, like, his speech stirs the hearts of particularly, Fingon, who would not be parted from Mithros, so he wants to go. Finrod, who is friends with Fingon and Mithros as well, wants to go. Galadriel, she listens to her uncle, and she wants a kingdom of her own in Middle-earth, so she's like, I'm tired of being just a citizen here. I want to be queen. So she's like, I'm going with you guys. Angrod and Agnor, they want to go too. And all, like, the Noldor just want to go. They're tired of being here, cooped up. And, like, the way Feanor says it, he's like, we are prisoners here. Like, we're not free. We're not free. And so the Noldor rise up and have 3 hosts. The most like zealous follow Feanor in like the vanguard. Then come the biggest group with Fingolfin, who are following out of duty because Fingolfin's like, I want to be with my brother. I want to be there for him. You know, part of like the reason all this went to shit is because I wasn't there for. He's such a sweetheart, really, but for all the wrong reasons. While Finarfin is lagging behind because he's like, something ain't right. So. Yeah, so the Noldor march out of Tirion in a massive column, and they head north to Aqualonde, where the Teleri are. And Feanor is like, give us your ships. We gave you friendship when you arrived. We helped you build this haven. The least you can do is give us your ships so that we can sail across the sea to fucking Middle Earth, and we can handle this. And Alway goes, no, okay, we're not renouncing any friendship. However, you did not give us these ships. If you wanted our haven, we'd give you our haven. But you want these ships that we ourselves made. We cut the timbers. Our wives and daughters made the sails. They are staying with us because these are like your Silmarils to us. We like, if we lose these, we can never make their like again. And so Feanor walks away. He's fucking pissed. And then he's like, you know what? I'm not going to let that stop me. So he has his men start manning the ships. The Teleri are like, hey, not cool. So a struggle breaks out. And like the Teleri start throwing the Noldor into the water. The Noldor draw their swords and start killing the Teleri. This is the first kinslaying. And the first ever killing of elf by elf. And this is like one of the biggest sins against the Noldor. I feel like I'm Melkor right now, where I'm just like, ooh. Oh. Did I do this? Oh. Ah, so good. You know what? First kinslaying. Let's go. First kinslaying. Anyway, so they finally, like, Fingolfin and his host arrive and see what's happening, and they think, oh shit, the Teleri are trying to stop us, because the Teleri have now armed themselves with bows and are now killing Feanor's company, which is the smallest of the companies. And so Fingolfin's like, holy shit, I gotta defend my bro. So he leads his men into battle, and they basically kill all the Teleri warriors. The Teleri are basically driven from Aqualonde, and so many of them die. And the quays are filled with blood from the fallen, and they start to man the ships. Now, there aren't enough ships to take all the Noldor. Only a few. So for a time, like, However, Finarfin comes across this and goes, I'm out. You guys fucking killed people. We were only supposed to go after Melkor, and you guys have just killed the, like, people, like, our dad was friends with these people, and you've killed them. This isn't right. So Finarfin is like, any who think this is fucking batshit now, come back with me. We're going back to Tirion. We're not going any further. So he leads a portion of the Noldor back to Tirion, where he basically becomes king. But Fingolfin and Feanor, Feanor's like, nope, I'm not going back. And a lot of them are like, okay, well, we're in deep. I just killed another elf. I'm not going back. So they decide that the ships will sail alongside the company as they march north, and so that when they reach the part of the sea that is like narrower, so that the voyages won't take as long, then they'll start ferrying people across. So as they are heading north, they are stopped by a hooded figure standing atop a pinnacle of rock next to the road that they are taking north. And I guess I gotta read this out, because this is a very important aspect of the Silmarillion. Alright. I'll just read this portion. Nonetheless, the greater part of the Noldor escaped. Oh, wait. Okay, sorry. Then the Noldor drew away their white ships, and manned their oars as best they might, and rowed them north along the coast. And Alway called upon Osse, but he came not, for it was not permitted by the Valar that the flight of the Noldor should be hindered by force. But Uinen wept for the mariners of the Teleri, and the sea rose in wrath against the slayers, so that many of the ships were wrecked, and those in them drowned. Of the kinslain of Alqualonde, more is told in the lament which is called Noldalante, the fall of the Noldor, that Maglor made ere he was lost. Nonetheless, the greater part of the Noldor escaped, and when the storm was past, they held on their course, some by ship and some by land, but the way was long, and ever more evil as they went forward. After they had marched for a great while, in the unmeasured night, they came at length to the northern confines of the guarded realm, upon the borders of the empty waste of Ahriman, which were mountainous and cold. So basically, like right around here is when they hit it. There they beheld suddenly a dark figure standing high upon a rock that looked down upon the shore. Some say it was Mandos himself, and no lesser herald of Manwë. And they heard a loud voice, solemn and terrible, that bade them stand and give ear. Then they all halted and stood still, and from end to end of the hosts of the Noldor the voice was heard, speaking the curse and prophecy, which is called the prophecy of the North, and the doom of the Noldor. Much is foretold in dark words, which the Noldor understood not until the woes indeed after befell them. And all heard the curse that was uttered upon those that would not stay, nor seek the doom and pardon of the Valar. Tears unnumbered ye shall shed, and the Valar shall fence Valinor against you, and shut you out, so that not even the echo of your lamentation shall pass over the mountains. On the house of Feanor the wrath of the Valar lieth from the west into the uttermost east, and upon all that will follow them it shall be laid also. Their oath shall drive them, and yet betray them, and ever snatch away the very treasures that they have sworn to pursue. To evil end shall all things turn that they begin well, and by treason of kin unto kin, and the fear of treason shall this come to pass. The dispossessed shall they be forever. Ye have spilled the blood of your kindred unrighteously, and have stained the land of Ammon. For blood ye shall render blood, and beyond Ammon ye shall dwell in death's shadow. For though Eru appointed you to die not in Ea, and no sickness may assail you, yet slain ye may be, and slain ye shall be, by weapon and by torment and by grief, and your houseless spirits shall come then to Mandos. There ye shall abide long and yearn for your bodies, and find little pity, though all whom ye have slain should entreat for you. And those that endure in Middle Earth and come not to Mandos shall grow weary of the world as with a great burden, and shall wane, and become as shadows of regret before the younger race that cometh after. The Valar have spoken. Oh, I'll actually read Feanor's response because he's just a badass. Then many quailed, but Feanor hardened his heart and said, We have sworn, and not lightly. This oath we will keep. We are threatened with many evils, and treason not least, but one thing is not said, that we shall suffer from cowardice, from cravens, or the fear of cravens. Therefore I say that we will go on, and this doom I add. The deeds that we shall do shall be the matter of song, until the last days of Arda. So, basically, they are cursed by the Valar for the sin of the slain of the Teleri, basically. And they are sent out, and basically Valinor is made into a fortress. They set up these things right here called the Enchanted Isles that basically will stop any ship trying to come to Valinor. You'll be caught in a mist, you'll fall asleep, and you'll be trapped on these islands forever until, like, the spell ends. Basically, Valinor is, like, closed off from the rest of the world, and they're like, you fucked up. You're not coming back. So, Feanor is now becoming more and more just pissed off. In the meantime, let's see what's been happening in Beleriand, because Morgoth and Ungoliant the spider have escaped over the north and have come down here to the Firth of Drengist near Lamoth. And when they reach here, Ungoliant has become so huge that Morgoth is afraid of her, because she has fed on the trees and she's eaten all these beautiful jewels that Feanor had. And Morgoth stole a bunch of jewels and valuables from Formenos. And so she's like, You said you would feed me with both hands. Give me what you have in both of your hands. And so the great Dark Lord offers her what is in his left hand, and she eats it. And she's like, You said both hands. But in his right hand, behind his back, are the Silmarils, which are burning him. Because Varda hollowed them, and because he's evil, they're burning into him, but he's still holding on. He's like, No, I've given you already what you are owed. These are mine. And she's like, Bitch, I'll fucking eat you. So she traps him in these webs and starts to like bite him. And his cries of pain echo so much that apparently they become trapped in this land called Lamoth, so that if ever like a sound is made, you can hear the echoes of Morgoth's screams in the hills. But his scream is so loud that Sauron and the Balrogs in Angband hear it, and they're like, He's back! So the Balrogs grab their whips and whoosh, and start, and like they zoom over here, and they find Ungoliant trapping Morgoth, and she's about to eat the Silmarils, but the Balrogs come over and whip her away, and she flees in terror from their whips of fire. And she basically establishes herself here in Ered Gorgoroth, and apparently she grows so hungry she ends up eating herself. But her children are basically like the spiders of Mirkwood and Shelob, and like these very big and intelligent spiders. So then Morgoth returns to Angband. Sauron's like, Honey, you're home. And he's like, Shut up, bitch. I got my fucking Silmarils. I'm ready to party. And Sauron's like, okay, well, while you were gone, fucking Elu Thingol, the king of Doriath, has basically claimed all this land as his. And Morgoth's like, yeah, well, we'll see about that. And so he starts having his orcs, who are basically... Orcs are apparently elves that he took from Cuivianen long ago and tortured into just becoming this twisted race. So he starts sending orcs south, and they start pushing through and raiding the lands. Eglarist and Berthumbar become besieged by orcs. They cannot enter Doriath because Melian has set up basically a force field called the Girdle of Melian, and it surrounds basically this part of the forest of Neldareth and the forest of Region, and no evil can pass through them. But like all the elves who live outside of these places are in trouble. Oh, in this time that Elwë has kind of created his kingdom here, he has met the dwarves of the Blue Mountains. They are the... Oh, shit. Sec. Yes. The two dwarf clans. So, you have, of course, the... Sorry. You have the Longbeards, who are Durin's folk, and they are all living in Khazad-dûm, which has been founded. They're living far away over there. But the two dwarf clans that live in the Blue Mountains, here at Belagost and Nogrod, are the Broadbeams and the Firebeards, I believe. So, they're friendly enough. The dwarves start trading with Doriath, and everything's fine. But then Morgoth starts sending these orcs south into the lands, and they're causing all sorts of trouble. And a bunch of the elves are just fleeing into Doriath, and Doriath itself starts to become besieged. And so that's what Morgoth's been doing. However, the Noldor eventually reach this point up here in the north, and they have only a few ships to start ferrying people over. And so, of course, Feanor and his sons go over first with their most zealous followers, and they land over here at Lamoth. And of course, like, Maithros, the eldest son, is like, don't worry, Fingon, we'll be back for you guys. We'll start ferrying you over. And so they land over at Lamoth, right here, and then they're like, Maithros is like, okay, well, let's start ferrying over people. Who are we going to bring over first? Fingon the Valiant? And Feanor says, no, we're not bringing any of them. They are useless baggage along the road. Okay? It's fucking Fingolfin. I haven't forgotten the fact that his mom took my mom's spot. We're not bringing them over. They're hesitant. They're not going to do what's needed. No. We let the ships burn, and he orders them to burn the ships because he also fears that if any of his people go back over on the ships to bring back others, they'll get cold feet and won't want to come back. So he burns the ships, and so he's like, we're staying here, we're finding Morgoth, and I'm gonna fucking murder that son of a bitch. So the ships get burned, and from the other side of the ocean, the burning is so powerful that Morgoth can see it up north in Angband, and across the sea, Fingolfin can see it, and he's like, motherfucker. And so the elves are like, they're not coming. Like, the elves still on the other side of the ocean are like, they're not coming back. Well, what do we do? Do we just go back to Valinor? We've already been cursed. They're not going to let us back in. And Fingolfin is like, he's like, no. We're going. And we're going to take the long road. Because up here is the Hel Caraxe, the grinding ice. So this part of the ocean is frozen over. So he plans on taking them across the dangerous wastes and then coming down out of the north. So, oh, 1 sec. I need to stretch. I am very tipsy. Anyway. So the remainder of the Noldor, who are with Fingolfin, and they're like a sizable force, start heading north to cross the Helcaraxes. And so down here in Beleriand, back to the map, Feanor is leading his men over here. And oh wait, no. Orcs descend on them here at the Firth of Drengist because they saw them coming up and they're like, oh shit, we gotta get them. And so the orcs attack, but they don't stand a chance against the Noldor because the Noldor have the light of Valinor in their eyes. They are strong, they are powerful, so they're just hewing orcs back and forth. It's especially really terrifying when you imagine these elves being like 8 or 9 feet tall because they've been living in Valinor for so long that they're just jacked up as all hell. And but Feanor, like as orcs are retreating back towards Angband, Feanor is like whole hog, like no, we're getting them. And so he breaks away from his host and just chases down these orcs until he's within like sight of Angband. However, at this point, Morgoth's like, okay, send out the Balrogs. And so like the Balrogs come out with their whips and basically like they kill Feanor. Like they mortally wound him and he's trying to hold them up, but they mortally wound him. However, his sons and the rest of the army like arrive and drive off the Balrogs. But by now, Feanor has been dealt too many deadly blows. And he makes his sons swear that they will avenge him and get the Silmarils back at any cost. That like they will obey the oath they made back in the West when they decide to follow him, and they swear. And his soul is so fiery that his body just burns up, and his soul leaves, and that's it. And that's the end of Feanor. He goes back to Mandos, and he's not allowed to reincarnate because of his sins. And now the sons of Feanor are caught off guard because Angband is more powerful than they thought because they didn't realize that Sauron and the Balrogs were still there. And in the time that Melkor has that Morgoth has been gone, Sauron has built up Angband as a new like Utumno. It's a new fortress for his master, and he's gathered hundreds of thousands of orcs and. Like, the sons of Feanor, like, we can't assail that. We can't fight that. So they pull back. They pull back to here on the southern side of Lake Mithrim. And they are saved by the rising of the moon. Now let me tell you about this. So, the sun and moon. Oh, shit. So, the Valar are like, well, that was a bust. The Noldor are gone. Morgoth is back in the world. It's gonna suck when humans show up. And they're like, oh shit, we forgot the humans. They're gonna arrive, and all this shit is going on in Middle-earth. So, they're like, we need to save them. Well, give them hope. So Varda creates several new bright constellations. And then they find a blossom of Telperion, the silver light one, and a fruit of Laurelin, the golden light one. And with them, they create the sun and the moon. Now, they give the moon to Tilion, who is a Maiar of Orome. He fucking loves silver. And he's like, okay, you go overhead. Arian, who is like this flame spirit, they're like, hey girl, you're the only one who can handle the heat of this fruit of Laurelin. So you'll take it, and you'll be the sun. And she's like, sweet. I fucking hate that Morgoth guy. Let's do it. So, they start going in the sky. However, Tilion is wayward. He's not always up in the sky when he should be. He has the hots for Arian. So sometimes they'll both be in the sky at the same time. Sometimes he'll get too close and he'll get burned, aka a solar eclipse. Oh, God. This is so good. Sorry. This is the quality content you came for. Me eating popcorn. You guys holding up? Am I still boring you? Good to hear. A baby hobbit at Bilbo's feet, except Bilbo's like cussing up a storm when he's talking about it. And he's eating. So. No, popcorn. No man left behind. Alright. So. At the first rising of the moon, Fingolfin finally has crossed the grinding ice with his host. They've lost a lot of people there, but they are now hardened. They are full, ready to go. At the first rising of the moon, they blow their horns, and the scouts of Morgoth say, holy shit. Oh, wait. Wait. So, the sons of Feanor, after Feanor dies, they hold their stance here. And there's another, there's a battle. Oh wait, no. Morgoth sends them an emissary saying, hey man, I've done wrong. What do you say we just talk this over, huh? What do we say we just let bygones be bygones? I'll even give you a fucking, a Silmaril back. How about that? So, what do we say? No weapons, just us. I might give you a Silmaril back. Sorry about your dad. I know, I didn't mention the oath. For those aware, when Feanor and his sons left Tyrion back in the west, they swore an oath that nothing could stop them from getting the Silmarils back. It's very important, because they swear on Eru, which is something you don't do. Because he can't recant that oath. You can't hear back from him. So if you don't hold that oath, you're fucked. So basically, if they don't get a Silmaril back by any cost, they can't survive anymore. They're like fucked. They can't live with themselves. So, you know what? I'm just gonna keep going. I slept until noon today. I'm powerful. So, Mithros is like, okay, well, I'll go, but this is obviously a trap, so I'll just bring a lot of soldiers with me. However, Morgoth is like, this is a trap, but they're gonna know it's a trap, so they're gonna send more soldiers, but I'll send even more soldiers. So they meet. Morgoth sends them more soldiers and like a few Balrogs. They capture Mithros. Morgoth lords it over him, like, you dumb bitch. You came to the wrong house. And then, basically, has his soldiers drive the Sons of Feanor back onto this side of Lake Mithrim. While he takes Mithros, puts a cuff around one of his arms with a chain, and basically chains him to a pinnacle of rock above his fortress of Angband. I believe it's got two massive slag heaps that just come out of it, so it's called Thangorodrim. So Mithros is just hanging there in pain, as like I imagine like the fucking metal is just digging into his arm. Oh yeah, it's like a few years that Mithros, I believe, is chained to Thangorodrim. But, so, the Sons of Feanor are still stuck here. And they're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? At that point, the moon rises, the host of Fingolfin arrives. They're haggard, but they're rip-roaring and ready to go. They've seen some shit. They've hunted polar bears for meat, probably. That's not canon, but hey. I'm just saying. So, they fucking... Fingolfin, they see the spires of Thangorodrim, and Fingolfin is like, my bro said he was going there, we're going there. And the force of Noldor that have come with Fingolfin are so many in number and so powerful that the forces of Morgoth are like, oh shit, come on, close the doors. And they shut the gates of Thangorodrim and they're not coming out. Like, Fingolfin pounds on the gates of Thangorodrim, but there's no answer. And he's like, well, we can't assail this place. And then he finds out, hey, the Sons of Feanor, those dicks who fucking left you for dead, they're camping on the south side of Lake Mithrim. So he takes him, he and his men, him and his host come around and camp north. And the Sons of Feanor are like, oh shit, they're here to kill us. Because we abandoned them. And they've seen some shit now. Like, they've lost a lot of people because of what we did. And there are a lot of people in Fingolfin's camp who are like, let's go fucking kill those pricks. Come on, let's do it. They betrayed us. But Fingolfin's like, we can't. But there's a lot of unrest. So Fingon, who is very close with Mithros, the son of Fingolfin, he is like, you know what? I am my father. he can only hold our people back for so long before they want revenge. It's time we make things right. So he grabs a bow and arrows and a sword, and he sets out to Thangorodrim. And he's looking for Mithros here and there. And he's trying to find ways to get into Thangorodrim, because they don't know that Mithros is chained up on this massive, like, stone edifice. They think he's imprisoned. But as he's searching for him, he can't find him, and so he sits down and sings. He sings a song of Valinor, and of, like, their friendship of old, and how sad that it's become here. But then Mithros, who is chained high up above, hears his voice, and he manages to sing back, and Fingon hears him. So he climbs a stone edifice, and he can't reach Mithros, because he's like a few stories up, and Mithros is just like, I'm in terrible pain, just kill me. And Fingon is like, I can't find a way up, so I'm gonna. So he takes his bow and arrow, and he's going to kill Mithros to put him out of his misery. However, one of the great eagles descends. I believe it's not Gwaihir. Thorondor, I believe? No. Is it? I think it's Thorondor, who's Lord of the Eagles, who comes to their aid, and he stops. He stops Fingon from killing Mithros, and he's like, "I can fly up there." So he flies him up there, but they can't get the chain manacle off Mithros' hand. So, Ratgloss says a prayer to Manwë to speed his arrow so that he can put Mithros out of his misery. But Manwë hears the prayer and sends an eagle to stop him from killing him. That's what happens. So, Fingon flies up there on the eagle, but they can't get the manacle off off Mithros' right hand. So he just cuts off the hand, and the eagle flies them back just as the hosts of Fingolfin are going to attack the sons of Feanor, and they arrive, and Fingon says, Mithros says, "Everyone stop. We have done wrong. Me and my brothers we did such a terrible thing by leaving you behind. Our father is now dead. I am his heir. I am supposed to be king of the Noldor, but I don't deserve it." And so he basically goes to Fingolfin and bows and says basically, "Fingolfin, you are now king of the Noldor. The sons of Feanor can never claim the title of king of the Noldor, ever, because of their father's actions and what they then did." So, Fingolfin becomes High King of the Noldor, and he, all the kind of hardship is put aside because Mithros is very diplomatic. He admits to the others that he and his brothers were wrong. His brothers might not admit that, but he is willing to offer them a hand, no pun intended, in friendship. He and Fingon, their relationship is so strong that they kind of unite together. Mithros now is only one-handed, and it's his left hand, which he isn't left-handed, but he learns to fight so well with his sword, with his left hand, that it becomes deadlier than when he wielded it with his right hand. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so they're at peace now. Morgoth is now unwilling to leave his fortress because this mass of Noldor have arrived. So they're like, well, what are we going to do now? Well, they head south and defeat the orcs besieging Berthombar and Eglarist. And they find it. And Círdan is like, holy shit, guys, you came in clutch. My name is Círdan. I'm a Teleri. But my king, Ilu Thingol, lives over in Doriath. This is all his land. I don't know what you guys are doing. Hopefully you're here to help us in our war against, in defending against Morgoth. But yeah, thanks for coming to our aid. You should really go talk to my king, though. So, because the sons of Finarfin, who... it's kind of depressing because Finarfin is the only one of his family who decides to stay behind. Finrod, Angrod, Agnor, and Galadriel all leave him to follow Feanor. But like Finrod and his brothers, their mom, Eärwen, is always daughter. And so they're like, we'll go talk to Ilu Thingol, because, you know, our mom is his niece, and we're technically his grandnephews, so we'll talk to him. Don't worry, guys, we got this. So they go to Doriath, and Thingol is like, hey, man, you did well. I don't know why you guys came, though, and I feel like you're not telling me everything. And they're like, oh, no, we just wanted to come help you out, because they are not willing to admit that. They're like, hey, we killed a bunch of your kinsfolk back in Valinor. So he's like, all right, I see. And so he's like, okay, well, a lot of my people already live here. I don't want them to be displaced. However, you can take some lands that you want to abide in and make it yours. So basically, they can't really live along here, the Falas, because Círdan's folk live there, and Thingol's like, you can't be displaced. You can't just be displacing people. They can't live here in Doriath because that's his kingdom. So they divide up. So Fingolfin becomes Lord of Hithlum, this little fortified region up here, and his son Fingon becomes Prince of Dor Lomin. His other son Turgon becomes Lord of Nevrast and makes a little town here called Vinyamar. The sons of... Well, let me... Because there's a map of where things are. Finarfin's kids killed people because Finrod was in Fingolfin's... in the van with Fingolfin, as were Angrod and Agnor. But, yeah, okay. So, as things are getting settled, Angrod and Agnor, Finarfin's sons, they take control of here, Tar Nufuin. The sons of Feanor live in the east, so Maithros and Maglor live up here. Maithros lives here. The Hill of Himring is kind of his capital. Maglor lives around here in the March of Maithros. Celegorm and Curufin, who have always been super close together, live here in Himlad. Amrod and Amras live just here in these plains in Estelad. And Caranthir lives here in Thargelion, where he gets to know the dwarves. They don't really like... He and the dwarves don't get along, but, you know, they make do. And then, eventually, as time goes on, Turgon and Finrod, the cousins, are pretty decent friends, and they go wandering together. And they fall asleep here at the Fens of Sirion. And in the dream, Olmo comes to both of them, but each thinks that they're the only one getting this dream. And he says, you need to make a place of strength in case things go bad. You both need secret, hidden fortress cities, because the other Valar don't want you back. I kind of do, but just to be safe, you guys need to fucking hide. So, just in case. So they're like, okay, shit, we'll do that. So each keeps it to themselves because they're like, okay, it's a secret. Finrod, kind of talks to his grand uncle Thingol about like, hey, where would be a good place to fucking make a secret city, say if I wanted one? And he's like, well, there is an old cavern that used to be home to some dwarves that we probably killed. Right here along the river Narog. You could take that if you want. No one's living there. So, Finrod's like, choice. So he goes there. He goes to Nargothrond. He employs the dwarves to help him carve it out. And the dwarves love Finrod because he brought over a lot of treasure from fucking Valinor. And he gives them a lot of treasure. So he becomes known as Finrod. And the dwarves call him Felagund, which is Hewer of Caves. And so he forms like a really good relationship with the dwarves. And they're like, this guy's the best. And he creates this secret fortress city of Nargothrond, which becomes important later. So the realm of Nargothrond is where Finrod, Galadriel's brother, lives. Galadriel doesn't live with any of her brothers. She meets Celeborn in Doriath, and she starts to learn magic from Melian, the Maya, who lives here. And so she's like, no, I'm going to stick here. So, these realms are established. Everything's going great. And at this point, I think... Alright. In the meantime, let's talk about humans. So, at the first rising of the moon, the elves of Fingolfin came over here, assaulted Angband, pulled back, formed their realms. At the first rising of the sun, humans awake here along the inland sea of Helkar, and they live down here. Now, no Valar comes to greet them because the Valar have locked themselves away in the west. And so humans just start to spread out on their own. However, they start meeting servants of Morgoth, and the servants of Morgoth are like, oh shit, we gotta fucking tell the boss because they're fucking more children of Ilúvatar here. So oh god, Milfian. I can't believe I looked over to see that. Terrible. Just terrible. I hate that so much. Milfian. Fucking hell. Well, I'm glad you like it, Of. My belly is very warm from the whiskey. Good shit, though. Good shit. The vodka's helping, too. Alright, so. Where was I? Alright, humans. So, humans are spreading out. Morgoth knows they're there. He leaves in secret to start fucking with humans and start kind of enslaving some of them. And so, a bunch of humans start heading west to escape Morgoth, who's basically controlling all these areas. So, pardon me. Alright. Oh, yes. So, eventually, Turgon, he doesn't ask anyone about where to build his secret city. However, Ulmo's like, hey bro, I can show you a secret way. So he takes him up to a dried riverbed up over here and leads him into this hidden vale called Tumladen. And in the middle of this plain, in the middle of the mountains, is a single rocky hill where Turgon is like, holy shit, that'll look just like Tyrion back home. So he summons his crafters from Vinyamar. They start building this city in secret, and secretly, like bit by bit, he has his people abandon Vinyamar to come live in Gondolin. And so eventually Vinyamar is totally desolate. No one lives there anymore, and they've all moved over here to Gondolin. And Gondolin is where Sting was forged, along with Orcrist and Glamdring. Glamdring, I believe, was the sword of Turgon, actually, when he was king of Gondolin. So, honestly, we have a lot more people on here than I thought we would. No, I might just be background noise. But I'm used to. That's good. So, Turgon's sister, Arethel, she leaves Vinyamar and lives in Gondolin with him. And then one day, she's like, bro, I want to leave the city. And he's like, I'm sorry, you can't leave the city. The whole point of the hidden city is that no one can find us. And if we just start leaving the city, people will know where the city is. And she's like, you're my brother, you're not my king. Fuck you, I can do what I want. And he's like, all right, well, you have a point there. I can't force you to stay here. I can't bring myself to do that. However, you have to take an escort. And she's like, okay, well, I want to visit... she says she wants to visit someone, but she tells me... Oh yeah, she's like, I want to go visit, our brother Fingon, who's living in Dorlome, and she's like, it's not that far. And so he's like, okay, well, you can go. And she leaves, and she says to her escort, fuck that noise, I was lying to my brother because I knew he wouldn't let me if I said it, but I actually want to visit my two friends, Celegorm and Curufin, who are living over here, the sons of Feanor. So let's go over there. And so her escorts arrive at Doriath. At this point, the rumors among the Noldor have reached Doriath about the kinslaying. And so Thingol is like, okay, fucking no sons of Feanor can ever come in Doriath. And the children of Fingolfin, they're on probation, and the children of Finarfin, they can come and go, but I'm fucking pissed because you guys killed a bunch of Teleri, and you're not allowed in Doriath. And so when Arethel and her escort arrive to seek passage safely through Doriath to Himlad, the March Wardens say, no, you can't come in. You're a fucking, not only are you a child of Fingolfin, who's on fucking probation, but you're also friends with those sons of Feanor who were whole hog for killing our people. So no, you can't come in. You'll have to go around another way. So they go along this treacherous road near Nan Dungortheb, which is like a land of terror, because this is where this is where Ungoliant died, and where her spider spawn is living, and all the waters that come from Ered Gorgoroth are fucking poisonous. So like this is a stretch of just desolation. And so they lose track. Her escorts lose track of her in this area, and so they return. They tell Turgon, and he's like, "Fuck, my sister's dead." However, she escapes and reaches Himlad, and she arrives at Himlad while Curufin and Celegorm are gone, and their servants are like, "My lady, please stay with us right here. Our masters will be back any time now, and they'll love to see you." So she stays with them for like a few days or months or so. But Curufin and Celegorm are held up, probably fighting orcs along the March of Mithros. So she eventually is like, you know what, I'm going to go try and find them. And she ends up in the enchanted forest of Nan Elmoth. Now, living in Nan Elmoth is this Teleran elf called Eol. He is of a kindred with Thingol, but he does not trust Thingol, because Thingol is married to Melian, and he's like, I don't trust that goddess. So he's like, I'm going to live over here in my dark little forest and think my dark little thoughts. However, Eol fucking loves dwarves. He is pumped about dwarves. And dwarves are pumped about Eol because he is actually a pretty good craftsman for being a Teleri elf. And so he knows how to make this black ring mail that you can wear. And it's like almost like mithril mail. And like the dwarves love that shit. And like they teach him their secret language. They get in so close. They're like this, and the dwarves are like, we fuck with this elf. We love him. And he's like, hell yeah, dwarves are the best. And so he sees Arathel in the forest, and he kind of uses his command of the forest to kind of ensure she can't leave it. And she ends up being drawn to his secret house in the middle of Nan Elmoth, where he's like, hello, you will be my bride. And she's just like, okay. He doesn't take her by force. She actually assents to it. Their marriage is a complicated one. But, like, it's very much almost like a Hades and Persephone type thing. Except I have more respect for Hades than I do this motherfucker. So, they get married and have a son named Maeglin. And Maeglin grows up. His coloring is like his father. So like dark hair and dark. He's known as Eol is called the Dark Elf, mind you. I always imagined that meant more his demeanor, where he was like black of hair but like pasty and he's dark. But it has also been read as him being dark of skin, which plays into some very racist things. And so when coloring is brought up, it's implied that like Maeglin is like a mulatto. But they describe him like in build, he's like one of the Noldor, big, tall, strong. Yeah, Ratglass is right. There's a lot of like different things with like fucking like skin color. And Tolkien has never been good when it comes to actual like definite character descriptions. Anyway. But he takes after his Noldorin cousins and uncle and stuff. And he's like, Mom, tell me about where you came from. Because now that she's living here, Eol doesn't want her to leave. So he's like, no, you can't leave at any cost. And she's like, well, this isn't any better. So Maeglin is like, Mom, tell me stories about Gondolin. And she tells him about Gondolin. And he's like, damn, that sounds fucking neat. Because my father has taught me everything he knows, but I want to learn from the Noldorin craftsmen who are so much better than my dad. And so she's like, well, I know the way. And he's like, you know the way. You can be my guide, and I will be your guardian, Mom. And we'll go back to Gondolin. Fuck whatever Dad says. You know the way. I want to leave this place. So, fucking... One sec. Yes, Veery, my background is Lord of the Rings Online. It's the Golden Perch. Yeah. So. Moving on. So, they wait for Eöl to go to, like, a dwarf festival in the mountains. Because he's, like the only elf the dwarves are like, please, come into our mountain fortress and dine with us. And Eöl's like, hell yeah, let's get crunk. So, he leaves, and they wait for him to leave. And then they get ready and sneak out. Well, he comes back early from the festival, and hears from his servants, like, hey, your wife and son just kind of left. So he follows them. They get across Himlad, and start passing. But he gets caught by, I believe it's Curufin, on their land. And Curufin's like, I don't fucking like you on my land. And Eöl's like, well, to be fair, it's not even your land. This was Tolkien land before you fucking colonizers showed up. And Curufin's like, you fucking suck. You took my cousin for your wife without even asking us. And he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. She accepted it. I don't have to get anything from you guys. And he's like, fine. Well, I'll let you go, but if I see you again, I'll kill you. So, Eöl follows them. He keeps up. He sees them where they enter these the Crissaegrim, the encircling mountains. And as they reach Gondolin, like, everyone rejoices. Turgon's like, my sister's alive, and I have a nephew. He loves Maeglin. Maeglin's so cool to him. He's like, a nephew, this is so cool. And then the word comes that they're like, our marsh wardens just caught a dark elf trying to sneak into Gondolin. And they're like, he claims that Erethdel is his wife, and Erethdel is she's like, no, he's my husband. Bring him here. And so Turgon is like super stoked. He's like, oh, cool, a brother-in-law. And he's like, hey, cool, you can, welcome, brother. You can stay here, you just can't leave, because this is the secret city, and you can't leave. And Eöl's like, no, I can go where I want and do what I please. This is Tolkien land, you guys do not belong here. I will not take orders from you. And Turgon's like, okay, well, still, you can't leave here. It's for the safety of my entire fucking city that no one can just leave to reveal where it is. And he's like, no, you'll have to kill me. And he's like, I fucking might. And he's like, no, I'm leaving and I'm taking my son with me. And Maeglin's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go, Dad. You live in a fucking spooky forest. This is a cool-ass fortress city. No, I'm staying here. So Eöl's like, fuck you then. And he pulls out a javelin that he had been hiding in his cloak and chucks it to kill Maeglin, and making a choice for both of them. However, Erethdel gets in the way and she takes the javelin. At that point, Eöl gets restrained, and Turgon is going to decide his fate. Erethdel is still alive, however she's very weak and wounded, and but she and her niece, Turgon's daughter, Turgon's daughter is Idril, yes. Idril Celebrimbor. His daughter Idril and Erethdel, they urge for him to show mercy and just, like, imprison Eöl, and hopefully he'll be out of his dark thoughts soon. However, the javelin was poisoned, and Erethdel soon dies. And so Turgon's like, okay, nope, he's dying. So they take him to the Precipice of Doom, which basically their form of execution is that they throw you from a great height onto a bunch of rocks at the bottom, which is fucking brutal. But as he's being led away, Ael curses Maeglin and says, "You will die the same way as I, on the rocks beneath us." And then he gets tossed over and his body gets broken against the rocks. Maeglin stays in Gondolin in the favor of Turgon, who kind of treats him like a son. However, the curse kind of weeds its way into things, where Maeglin starts looking at Idril, his cousin, and is like, "I want to bone that." And Idril's like, "Oh, fuck, gross, incest." And that's where we kind of leave that. That's a seed to be grown another day. Oh, this old hobbit. All right. Let's take a quick break. I gotta use the bathroom. So, yeah. Quick break, everyone. Stretch, walk about. We'll be back soon. I'm back. Alright, so. Alright, so everything's squared away. People are settled all around Belriand. Incest is happening. Well, attempted incest is happening in Gondolin. Doriath is closed off to everyone. At this point, probably shouldn't have chosen popcorn as my... Gotta own my teeth. Yeah. Watch Bilbo try to suck kernels out of his teeth. Alright. And if you guys hear yelling in the background, my roommate is trying out VR, so... Sorry, I'm at the stage of drunk where all I can think about is the kernel it's stuck in my teeth. Quality entertainment. Yeah, I'm a professional streamer. Anyway. So, if you remember way back when the elves were coming to Valinor from Cuivianen, that group of elves that broke off and went south and didn't hear back, well, they're back. Denethor, son of Linwë, has led people up here, and they dwell in Assyriand. Now, they become known as the Green Elves, because they live here in these woods, and they don't like chop wood, they're very zen, very part of the earth. So yeah, they're the Green Elves. The Grey Elves are the Sindar, so they're living here in Doriath and along the Falas. Though, technically, the Grey Elves are the Sindar, and they only live here in Doriath. The elves living at the Falas are known as the Falathrim. They're the Sea Elves, I guess. And then you have the Noldor just kind of spread all around, up and around up here. So, everyone's settled. Morgoth is stuck up north. No one's bothering anyone. And Finrod is just chilling one day. He goes hunting with, I think, the Sons of Feanor in Assyriand. And he comes across some campfires. And he's like, odd. What are these campfires? Because the elves of Assyriand don't burn wood. They use, like, luminescent mushrooms or some shit. So he's just very like, interesting. They're just like, and so he's like, oh shit, orcs are coming over the mountains. That's why they're here. So he grabs his fucking bow and sneaks up on the camp. But what he sees aren't orcs. They're creatures that he's never seen before. He is the first Western elf to meet humans. This is a group of humans led by Balan, their chieftain, who have crossed the mountains to escape the darkness of Morgoth behind them. So he waits till they're all asleep, and he just like watches. He just hides and listens to them and watches them, and he grows love it for them grows in his heart. And so when they all fall asleep, he sneaks up to their campfire and grabs the crude harp that Balan, the chieftain, had set aside, and he starts to play it. And as he sings, his knowledge kind of echoes around them, and the men of the camp wake up, and they're not scared or anything. They're just amazed by seeing this very tall, beautiful lord of an elf sitting there playing a harp and singing majestically. Now, the thing about Finrod is he's a very powerful magic singer. He might not be the best singer. Maglor is the best singer. But a lot of the magic he knows is in his singing. So, as he sings, knowledge creeps into the minds of men, so they start to understand his language, because he doesn't know the tongues of men, but understanding kind of comes between them, and he manages to begin speaking with Balan, their chieftain, who reveals that his company is just one of three coming through. There are also the people called the Haladin, who are a very simple group of men who are making the trek. But then there is the group of Malek, the clan of Malek. One sec. Malek. Marak, yes, the House of Marak. They are the largest group of men who are coming into the West. And they are much more warlike. They march in ordered companies. So, as, like, Finrod gets, like, a rapport going with the House of Beor, the green elves come to him, and they're like, hey, could you get these men out of our fucking woods? They're cutting down our trees, and therefore they are our unfriends. They're not our enemies, but they are our unfriends. And so he quickly tells Beor, hey, if you stick around, you're going to get arrows shot at you. So here, follow me. I'll lead you to a place where you can stay low. So he brings them across the river Gellion here. He brings them out of Assyriand over here into East Beleriand. And he goes to Thingol and Doriath, and Thingol's like, I don't like this, but I'm not going to turn them away. They can settle down here in Estelad, and they just can't live here in Doriath. No human will live in Doriath. And Melian, like, very, like, slyly goes, well, not yet. And then she doesn't, like, speak on that anymore. And they're just like, the fuck you talking about? And so, while he's dealing with the House of Beor here, the Haladin enter Assyriand. But because Finrod is busy over here, they don't know that the Green Elves will shoot at them. So the Green Elves shoot at them, so they quickly cross the river Asgar into Thargelion and kind of live here for a time. Meanwhile, the House of Merak, they come through, and the Green Elves are like, oh shit, there's so many of them, we can't fight them. So the House of Merak crosses without incident. They find the House of Beor, and they live there. So the in this time, orcs come down into Thargelion. Oh wait, do they yet? One sec. Okay, for a time, basically many of the humans living here either live in Estelad or down here in Thargelion. So eventually Finrod is like, there's so many of them, and they want to spread out. Would any of you want to take on some, like, humans as, like, soldiers and stuff? Because Balan, who later goes by Beor, which means vassal, he actually returns with Finrod to Nargothrond, and they are like besties until Beor dies. So, oh my god, he's so fucking loud. I got so used to him not being around Christmas time that now hearing him just screaming through walls is like, So, but yeah, like, and a bunch of men, like, they're like, well, we followed here in hope of getting away from Morgoth, but we found out Morgoth is here, and are we gonna just become slaves to the elves here? And then like there's some dissent, and like one of them who like one of the leaders who is dissenting, he appears at a like meeting, and he speaks against like staying, and he says, let's go away. But then they find out that wasn't actually him, that he was out hunting, and that was like a servant of Morgoth who was appearing to them. And so he goes from being like a skeptic of the elves to being like their number one supporter. However, some of the men then just end up heading south, not wanting any business here. So a bunch of humans start taking like service with the elven lords, and they start spreading out from Estelad. And so like you have humans living up here in Tower Nufuin. You have humans living here in Hithlum. The House of Merach become really good friends with Fingolfin. So like the House of Merach basically almost moves its entire like population into Hithlum to live alongside elves. The House of Beor, I believe, stays in moves north to help out Finrod's brothers in Tower Nufuin, or Dorthonion, as it is known at this point, in the watches against Morgoth. And meanwhile, the Haladin have been living here, but Morgoth, looking to cause more shenanigans, sends orcs into Thargelion. And Caranthir is stuck up here near Lake Helivorn, and the orcs push down so that the humans kind of corner themselves in here. They make a barricade between these two rivers and live here, slowly starving. Their leader, Haldad, I believe, and his son, Haldir, not Haldir. Yeah, Haldad, and and Haldan. Yes, his son Haldan. They die defending it, leaving behind his daughter Haleth, and she becomes the leader of the Haladin. And just as the orcs are about to break through this barricade, Caranthir finally arrives, slays the orcs, and he offers them friendship. Like, he sees like how fucking like amazing Haleth has been at like defending like her people, and he's like, man, we could use some humans up here. So he offers her like safety and living in Thargelion. He's like, come on, live with us. But she's like, nah, like, you guys couldn't really protect us now, currently. We had to fend for ourselves. We're going away. So she leads them on a trek northwards, and they settle in the forest of Brethil, which is technically part of Doriath, but none of the elves really live there. It's only there as part of it in name. And then this causes some unrest because Thingol is like, what the fuck? Why are humans living here? And the forest of Brethil is not behind the girdle. The girdle only covers Neldoreth and Region. But he sends for Finrod, who's acting like the diplomat here, and he goes to the forest of Brethil, and he talks with Haleth, and then he goes to Thingol, and Thingol gives him his terms, and he goes back to Brethil. And Finrod's like, okay, you can stay here, but you have to swear not to side with Morgoth. And Haleth is like, elves are fucking weird, okay? The orcs killed my brother and dad, and you think I'm gonna side with them? And she's like, fine, you know, I swear I won't side with the orcs. And then they're like, oh okay, well, there, we're good. So, yes, Antonia. His name is Haldad. Oh, so all the humans are in place. You're getting along with the elves. And you know what? I'm very sleepy now. I have been going at this for almost, 3 hours and 18 minutes. And I have been drinking, if you haven't been able to notice. So, I have a mind to just stop here. I might need to split this into 3 parts depending on how far we get next time. Because there's a lot to fucking cover. Yeah, there's a lot to fucking cover. So, thank you everyone who's managed to stick with us so far. I'm very tipsy. I should not be driving anywhere. And I'm not. I'm staying in for the night. But yeah, I know some of you also live over in Europe, so it is quite late for you guys. We made it this far. We made it this far, so like about a third. We covered about a third of the book. But yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Next week, I believe we are doing the Ring Journey South. I do need a guest for next week's fucking for next week's Tolkien Tuesday. So if you want to talk about the Ring going south, message me on Twitter or on Discord if we're part of the same Discord. But yeah, tune in next week. Hopefully I'll have a guest. And thanks for showing up, I think. Don't play with me, honeybee. I'm drunk. All right. Night, guys.